West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Machel Santokie, and with me as ever is my partner in crime, Santokie Nagilendran. Santokie, how you doing?
Yeah, all good, Mash. It's been a while, since I jumped on a Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Obviously, with CPL going on, stuff's taking a bit of a back burner. But for those of you thinking, hold on, Santokie's disappeared, listen, I've been out here spreading the word of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast in diplomatic circles. Those of you who follow us on Instagram, Twitter would have seen I met His Excellency, Dr. Irfan Ali, President of Guyana. I was fortunate enough to meet him at the weekend. And shock horror, Mash, he was aware of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. It shows you the movement is out here, We're reaching the top circles out here. So, yeah, I'm back here today. And you know what, Mash? We said we weren't going to talk too much on CPL. We weren't following it that much, use it as a bit of a break before we get back into West Indies international games. But we thought, you know what, there's been a big talking point happening last night, carrying on in today. And we thought, you know what, we need to jump in the hot seat to analyze this. And Mash, it all revolves around the eliminator last night between Trinbago Knight Riders and the Barbados Royals.
Yeah, so just to kind of set the scene, obviously you and I have not watched many of the games in CPL this year. And like most of the games this year, I was fast asleep. When I woke up at the time of recording early in the morning today, I looked at my phone and there were thousands of messages, essentially, in the Discord group, in the WhatsApp, just cussing. And I was like, what are they cussing about? What's happened? Read through all the messages, checked the scorecard, etc. And obviously a big farce had taken place in the eliminator game between Trinidad and Barbados. Now, let's try and put this timeline together, because obviously people are going to jump in the comments below and say, you two don't know what you're talking about. You didn't even watch it. But as we understand it, this is the timeline of events. Trinbago Knight Riders backed first. Puran was on 90 not out. I think it's important to state that as well. I think Dre was maybe at the crease with him.
Yeah,
Puran was like 90 off like 60 balls or something. And there was 5 balls left in the 20th over. I think Trinbago reached 168 for 3 when 3 of the floodlights at Providence failed. That brought an end to the Trinbago innings. So they were 19.1 overs, 168 for 3. The first talking point, which we can return to, Santokie, is that means they lose 5 balls with Dre and Puran at the crease. Anything could have happened in those 5 balls. I think at the bare minimum, you'd say 20 runs, probably at the bare minimum with those 2 at the crease, right? Anyways, they lose the 5 balls. A cutoff point is then set. Time's going. We're into late night now in Guyana, and the cutoff point is set, as my understanding goes, at 10:52. If they did not get back out on the pitch at 10:52, the game would have been abandoned, and Trinbago would have gone through virtue of the fact that they scored 14 points in the main stage and Barbados scored 10. Miraculously, at 10:51, all the lights came back. Play then restarted past the extension time at something like, as I understand it, 11:05. That's already a big cuss out people had. So play restarted after the cutoff point time, with the lights having come on 1 minute before the cutoff point time. Barbados were then given a revised total in only 5 overs to chase 60 runs, with all 10 wickets in hand. Another big cuss. In the words of Dre Russ, who was taken to Instagram earlier today, he said that CPL in essence is a fuckery. He said the lights failing was a fuckery. The lights coming back on with 1 minute to go, he said, was a fuckery. He said the revised target was a fuckery. All in all, Dre Russ said the whole event of last night was one big fuckery. I'm not here, Santokie, to do any kind of Trinbago Guyana conspiracy theory talk. I'm not really here for that. But I do think I'm here to discuss, should the game have gone ahead in the way it did, given the timeline that I've just outlined? And then on top of that, who's most damaged by this? Guyana the country or CPL the competition? Because that's another debate for me as well that I think needs to be had. Over to you, Santokie.
Yeah, I think it's a good question there, Mash. I think firstly, anyone who's been to Guyana, I'm shocked that this is the first time it's happened. Anyone who's been to Guyana knows that blackouts are legendary out here. 8 p.m. most nights, blackout out here. So it hit CPL. And as you said, Mash, it's not really about, obviously, it being the Caribbean, there's been cuss-outs about, Guyana as a conspiracy to eliminate Trinbago night riders. Dre Ross has come out uncharacteristically. I think in a world where cricket stars have major PR behind them and everything is sort of sanitized, it's also wild that he posted that statement, but it shows you how much emotion. Because the thing is, I think he posted it this morning. It's not even as if it was straight after it happened. He slept on it and woke up and said, yeah, you know what? It's still a fuckery. Like, I've woken up like I thought.
Hold on, we're forgetting the fact that he also put a sad face with the picture as well.
Man had to drop the selfie as well. And also, well, I think he's finished our chances of getting monetization from this video as well. We said fuckery about 15 times now in this video. But yeah, Mash, I think, firstly, however you look at it, it will have a bad reflection on Guyana. I think the fact that the Guyana sports minister, was it youth minister, had to come out and give a statement. The GPL, the company in charge of the electricity and lighting in Guyana, had to come out and put a statement. Obviously, it reflects bad on the infrastructure because it's the national stadium. It's not as if they were playing it in, an outground somewhere out in the countryside. It's the national stadium, Providence. CPL, all eyes watching it, big game as well. So I think it's always going to look bad on Guyana in terms of the infrastructure and ability to host big games. I think it'll be unfair because some things are out of your control. I think something like this hasn't happened before, but in any way, it will reflect on them in terms of that. I think CPL, obviously, you can't control the infrastructure. You trust that it's going to work, but I think the rules and regulations, Mash, and kind of how it happened is always going to lead it open to a cuss out because, like you said, there's been disputes about the cuss out, the cutoff time. So when was the cutoff time? Did play go beyond the cutoff time? How did the lights manage to come on, just before? Was it just before it got announced? Something just before cutoff time. It got announced where plays resuming. And then I think play might have resumed 1 or 2 minutes after the official cutoff time. Something on those lines. It's a bit of a grey area. And then also on a wider scale, in terms of cricket, I know they were following the DLS kind of rules if it was rain affected. But if Barbados Royals are coming out with 10 wickets in hand, they're going to score 60 runs in 5 overs.
Of course they are. Yeah.
Obviously, I get they've worked out as a percentage of what Trinbago has scored, but you don't factor in the fact they've got 10 wickets. So again, that makes it a farce. In my opinion, my personal opinion, I know it's a tight schedule. There's games every day because it's the final week at the moment. I would have just moved the match, carried on the match, a full match the next day, played it early, 3 p.m. UK time, 10 a.m. local time, and just got it done. I know logistically it would have probably been a nightmare to have it arranged at short notice, but it would have surely been possible. And more importantly, Mash, it would have restored the reputation of the competition and tournament because now you kind of feel like there's a shadow looming over the tournament because of this. And the fact that if it happened at the worst possible time, because if it happened in a group stage game, okay, cool, Trinbago have lost 2 points, whatever. But they've been eliminated because of this. So they paid essentially the ultimate price, which reflects why Dre Ross was so mad. So I think it came at a bad time, at a critical game, and it probably reflects badly on all parties. What's your sort of take on it, Mash? Where do you sort of stand on it? And what would have been your solution? Do you think they were right to have it in a 5-over period? Would you have moved it? What are your thoughts around it?
I want to know what this precise rules say. If there is such a thing as a CPL rule book, I want CPL to post on their X handle, Facebook, Instagram, the specific section in their rule book which says something along the lines of, in the event of a blackout, this is what will happen. Because
there must not be anything about, unless it's down as in a wider category of unforeseen circumstances or something like that. Because surely they wouldn't have even accounted for a blackout
But then
affected.
let me ask you this then: is a blackout the same as rain affected?
No, I don't think it is.
Right. Okay. So if we're starting from that metric that a blackout affecting a match is not the same as rain weather affecting the match, should Duckworth Lewis apply in the exact same circumstance? Because that's the big question for me. And I'm not here to defend Trinbago. I couldn't care less who wins CPL or who won that game yesterday or whatever. Yesterday. But it just doesn't sit right with me that you can come back out after a significant blackout and you're given 10 wickets in hand and it's like, oh yeah, we'll use Duckworth Lewis. Is Duckworth Lewis used for that? Is that the point of Duckworth Lewis? And if the lights are back on and you're saying, oh, right, they've done it just before the cutoff point, play the rest of the game then. Now, yes, you can say, well, people would go home. So be it. Play the rest of the game. Because, do you get where I'm coming from? And that's why I want to see the rule book, because what's the criteria around blackout? Is it just treated the exact same as a rain delay? And if it is treated the same as a rain delay, the next question should then be, should it be treated the same as a rain delay? If I was CPL operating manager, whoever the key head honcho is, if it's not Pete Russell, whoever's looking over the whole thing, I'd be pissed. I'd be pissed at Guyana. And thing is, here's the thing about the Caribbean, Santokie. Nobody will be held accountable for this. Nobody will lose their job. It will just be put down as this is just one of those things. We're lucky it happened now and not in the World Cup, because it could have just happened in the World Cup as well. Because let's not get this twisted. It's not specific to. I know you're talking about obviously blackouts in Guyana. As a Jamaican, it's not something. It's something I've seen plenty of times in Jamaica as well before, and people just accept it as, oh well, this is just what happens. But Santokie, it is important to raise one thing. I'm just going to go to the press release, because as I understand it, Providence isn't run via GPL, which is Guyana Power and Light. I think they've got their own independent system separate to the kind of nonsense that causes blackouts in Guyana all the time. So I'm just going to read the statement from the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport, which was put out earlier today, and from Guyana Power and Light, titled Floodlight Failure at Providence National Stadium. The Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport and the Guyana Power and Light Incorporated, GPL, wishes to inform the public of the loss of 3 of the 6 floodlights at the National Stadium during the 19th over of the match between TKR and Barbados. All CPL matches at Providence was successfully powered from independent generating sets located in the National Stadium and not by GPL grid. GPL had been on standby at all matches to render technical assistance to the stadium at all times. During the 19th over, 3 floodlights that were powered by an independent generator... read again. During the 19th over, 3 floodlights that were powered by an independent generator lost power, thus causing a disruption to the match. The GPL technical team on standby immediately began rendering assistance and restored power to 2 of 3 floodlights on the same circuit. The stadium's technical staff and GPL worked assiduously to restore power to the 3rd floodlight, which had a technical fault with the underground cable feeding power to that floodlight. A substitute cable was installed quickly to have this floodlight operational. This was achieved at 10:51 p.m. The cutoff was 10:52. The technical team remedied the problem and the game resumed. Additional technical assessment will be done immediately after the game to avoid any reoccurrence. Now, Santokie, I'm not into conspiracy, but if I was a Trini, I'd read that and go, wait a minute. That sounds and smells fishy as hell. What are you talking
This sounds like there was a flipping alarm clock saying 10:51, 59 seconds. And umpire said, no, listen, we got a game on, guys. So, you know what? I can see why Dre was cussed out, because, and you know what? It's good as well. In some ways, that part is good, because a lot of people say players don't care about, franchise cricket and whatever it is. That shows you that he's still a professional athlete, and you've invested all that time playing for a side, and then you get knocked out in that way. I think, Mash, the one thing we do have to say is, obviously, we're not here to pick and choose franchises and conspiracies, but if it was Guyana and Guyana were playing that eliminator, and they were in Trinbago's position, would we have seen the same thing? That's another question, because it would have more ramifications. I mean, we probably would have, but it being the host, defending champions, eliminated in this manner, would that have led to a different outcome with that regards? Which is why it goes back to your point. We need to see what the rules and regulations are for this type of factor happening, because at the moment people are thinking, and like you said, it sounds like it could be a conspiracy. Obviously it's not, but it sounds like it could be. People are assuming the rules have been made up ad hoc here. So is there something written in place, policies and procedures, or has there been an oversight and this was never accounted for? So that would be very interesting to see if CPL release a press release or kind of unveil what policy and procedure was. But I think the fact that it was Trinbago in Guyana and they're obviously big rivals is always going to lead to this sort of speculation and uproar, because I would say probably this year it's been one of the biggest stories in terms of interaction, people messaging us and tweeting us about it. It's caused a lot of uproar, especially with Trini fans. So you can kind of see why, though, when you factor in everything together.
Yeah, well, yeah, 100%. And again, not to kind of harbour on that point of the rule book, I'm surprised that a press release hasn't already been put out, because as the time ticked on, somebody somewhere within CPL match officials would have been surely like scrambling to look at the rule book and go, what do we do now? Do you see what I mean? As you're getting closer and closer, like if they'd got past the cutoff point, it was obvious what they do. Just you have to award the tie to TKR because it's obviously stated that they ended higher, so they go through. So I just want to know who was scrambling and where to make that decision of, yeah, we'll treat this like it's a rain delay. And I'm sure people get at us in the comments below and say, in such and such a match, this happened, and in such and such a match, this happened, and in international cricket, this is what you do. And I hear all that. But I'm asking, what was the CPL rules around it?
Yeah.
Who made the final decision, and what was it based off? I'm not saying that for any cuss out reason. I'm just saying I'd be intrigued to know. But either way, Santokie, they're out. Trinbago, Barbados go through. That Barbados going through reminds me of when that down bad Jamaica side won CPL and they weren't even that good a team. So Barbados will play the winners of the losers, of the game tonight between St. Lucia and Guyana. Yeah. And at this point, and do you know what will heighten it even more, Santokie? If Guyana go on to win, that will make not obviously not us. That will make some people believe, it'll be seen as some tainted victory. Yeah, whoever goes on to win is going to look like some kind of tainted victory.
That's what I mean. It's got a shadow now over the rest of the tournament, because, like you said, it would have tainted sort of the path to victory. And it's interesting, after the match, even Rothman Powell, obviously captain of the Barbados Royals, said they kind of got lucky. I think he said they were expecting to be eliminated based on the fact they wouldn't get back out. Pollard, I think, being captain, was more diplomatic and said, game's a game. We came out, had to defend the total in 5 overs. But it also leads to wider issues of, DLS in T20 games don't make sense because you can't account for certain factors. So when you add that in as well, it's kind of also the weird quirk of cricket. But it is what it is. I think all eyes will be on the Floodlight for today's game at Providence, tonight's game at Providence. And it'd be interesting to see if it's mentioned on commentary, or if they're an official statement, or is it just going to be brushed under the carpet as one of those things that happen? Because, I mean, like you said earlier, if someone in the comments, has there been a reference for this before? Has this happened before, where a blackout or an external factor has kind of shortened the T20 match? Because I only know rain in CPL, at least, like rain affected matches. So it'd be interesting one, and massive talking point. I'd love to know what Dre Ross's media officer or PR officer thought when he woke up and saw Dre Ross's story this morning. But again, like it shows you sort of the passion and sort of investment he has as well as a professional athlete.
I've long been told that Dre's agent can't control Dre. Dre does. I've long been told that Dre does what Dre wants to do, and him posting that in this day and age of kind of milquetoast, I don't know how to say that word. This day and age where sports people don't have any kind of personality, and they just kind of they have carefully crafted, very nice PR kind of tweets and this, that, and the third. I'm I have no issue with Dre saying it. At least it's real. Whether you agree with it or not, whether you think it's crass or not, at least it shows there's a human being there.
Yeah.
And so I got no issue with that.
I have to rate Dre Ross. We need to get him on the podcast because he's been on smoke in terms of this CPL. I know a few weeks ago they asked him about why he's not. Well, it was actually Joel Bailey, wasn't it? Well,
yeah.
Asked him about retiring. He said no. The diplomatic answer would have been, for the love of the game, I'm here. But Dre Ross just basically said, the Ute man ain't doing nothing, so I've still got to put on the guard for West Indies and show them how it's done. So I think it's just Dre Ross's personality to just say how it is. And as you said, Mash, in a sort of such a controlled atmosphere of media, modern media, where everything's controlled and checked before it goes out, Dre Ross is sort of refreshing in his honesty, and he just says it how it is. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the fallout is. And as you say, Mash, I don't think there's not really any way. I know people will say, "Oh, you lot are haters or cussing out," but Mash, from my perspective, there's not really any way you can kind of get rid of the tarnish of the rest of this competition because of that. Yeah. It is what it is at this point.
I'm not here to cast aspersions on any one group, organization, etc. If this had happened in the Premier League, if this had happened in international rugby, NFL, take any sport. You'd call it like you can't protect things when it's obviously nonsense, right? Any sport, if we were doing a podcast about another sport, you'd say this is a farce. This is an absolute farce, right? So it'd be like, I guess the football equivalent, Santokie, would be like a floodlight failure in a Premier League game goes on for 3 hours and there's still 45 minutes left. This don't make any sense now. I've started it. There's 45 minutes left.
It's the equivalent of when flipping Darren Bent scored and the ball hit the beach ball. And then
yeah. Okay,
there was all that regulations about, is it a goal, is it not a goal? And they had to go through the official sort of playbook. But I think the goal was given for, I think it was Sunderland at the time, but it tarnished that victory because Liverpool fans were always like, nah, it didn't count. You got help from the beach ball kind of thing. So kind of similar to that in that it's probably, there's no precedent for it. And it'd be interesting to see if it has been covered in the official rules. So we await, Mash. We wait to see if any press release, official statement goes out. For all we know, CPL is watching his press release, watching this video and thinking, oh, well, we need to get press release out, But,
do you know what I mean? That's what this is the effect Caribbean Cricket podcasts have. People watch this and go, but them man have started talking about it. Now we need to do something. So we await the CPL release in about 24 hours to clear everything up. And the thing is, Santokie, it doesn't even matter what they say next, because no matter what they say, somebody's gonna say they're just saying it. Do you see what I mean? So even if they try to cover themselves, people say, well, now you're just trying to cover yourselves because X, Y, Z. And if they admit that, boy, we didn't know what we were doing, then people call them incompetent. Do you see what I mean? So it wouldn't surprise me if you have to try and, not crisis management, it's not like it's a big crisis, but find some kind of carefully worded press release that essentially doesn't out yourself as an incompetent organization. And that's CPL. And just as I said, Santokie, lastly, I just want to know who's being held responsible at Providence Stadium, who's lost their job. For me, it's not good enough. The Ministry of Sport saying, oh, we found some faulty cable underneath the ground. Well, this is big CPL eliminator. What do you mean? What do you mean you suddenly found a faulty cable underneath the ground? When was the last time anything was checked then? It doesn't, no, but seriously, Santokie, the way it reads is like, oh, that's faulty. Oh, we didn't know. Big major tournament eliminator,
Listen, those people like me who say Providence is the Mecca of the Caribbean, we're down bad at the moment, it's not looking good for us. But Mash, you know what? We said this be a quick video because this is our talking point as ever. CCP, we're here to cover all the big talking points in the region. So let us know your thoughts, opinions. Where do you stand on what we calling this? What we even calling this incident? Floodlight.
Let's call it that. CPL Floodlight Gate.
Floodlight Gate. Give us your opinions. Do you think it was right to carry on 5 over match? Do you think it should have been moved to the next day? What should have happened in your opinion? Comment below. And also, who do you think should be held responsible for that? I'd be interested to get everyone's opinions. I'm 100% sure we're going to get hundreds of different opinions, Mash, on and different angles, different cuss outs, people supporting us. But we're here for it. Caribbean Cricket Podcast. We welcome the discussion. And Mash, you know what? We said we've taken a sort of break during CPL. I know you've been doing the Monday night mashups, but we're coming into that territory. You know, West Indies are touring Sri Lanka, so expect content on once they announce their squads. We've been told by Cricket West Indies by this weekend we should have a squad out. And also just a couple of hours before recording, the West Indies have announced the central contracts. Year contracts and first time ever multi-contracts for both the men's and women's players. So I'm sure we'll do an episode to give it justice and properly analyse the sort of moves that have happened with that. So a lot happening once again. International cricket's resumed. We'll be back with a lot of content. So as ever, like, comment, share, subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, X, TikTok, you know, the Discord group. I'm not actually part of the Discord group, Mash. I've got too many apps on my phone. I'm down bad. I'm with a down bad phone, but I'm always hearing from you know, the Discord group. There's always something lively going on there. So join the Discord group if you can. We're on Facebook as well. We're everywhere. And follow us if you can. Donate on Patreon as well. Caribbean Cricket. Every little penny helps. We always invest it back into the project, try and improve it. Got the new jingle at the beginning as well. You know, we've invested some funds into getting that up to date.
Pure cuss outs of the jingle, you know.
Oh, okay. Listen, man, listen. Yeah, new jingle, man. It's a new motive. We're out here. So as ever, support Caribbean Cricket. You know, the president of Guyana knows it. You should know it as well. Mash, I'll hand over the final word to you.
Yeah, Santokie said it all, people. Make sure you follow us on all the platforms. And for those of you who are on OnlyFans, you know what to do. Hold up.
Yeah, go on, man. This is like your catchphrase, man. This is like your ending catchphrase, man.
See you all, people. Listen, we're out. See you all very soon.
West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket.